So I'm driving to federal prison with my mom and brother, and we're about three hours from getting there. And it hit me. I am not ready for federal prison. It's nothing to laugh about, though I had to remind myself that I was not ready because I had spent 3 years, I was lethargic, I was lazy, I was indifferent. And you presume it's never coming. It's coming. And the day was there. And as we got closer and closer, I continued to tell myself, I am not ready for what's coming. Remember in Shawshank Redemption, Red, the character says, I'm not ready for life on the outside. And I'm thinking to myself, I am not ready for life on the inside. And with every bite of that final meal at Carl's Jr., gorging myself on this final meal as if I had a date with the electric chair. You ever you're so full and you're so depressed and so down, but you just power through and continue anyway? So as every bite into that Carl's Jr., which was adjacent to a gas station on the way to Taft Federal Prison Camp, I kept telling myself, I am not ready for federal prison. So if you're going to federal prison, I want you to be ready. In this live video on a Sunday, while I have a few hours to myself, which is nice, while my wife and kids are out doing something before I meet up with them, I want to knock out this video addressing 10 things, 10 actions you should take within 10 days of surrendering to federal prison, presuming you want to have a good experience, because I promise you this experience is ending. If you're watching this, going to a low or a camp, good news. You don't have a life sentence with good time and RDAP and halfway house and First Step Act and all that good stuff. You are going to be home much more quickly than you think. So once you get there, of course, avoid making the huge initial embarrassing mistake I made after I surrendered to prison, which was like, hello, I'm Justin Paperny. I'm here to surrender. The guard looked at me like I was a total imbecile. Then he said, we don't shake hands with inmates. I'm like, great. This further proves I was not ready for life in federal prison. So within that first 10 days, you need to take action, starting with do not engage in the prison hustle. In time, you will get adjusted to life on the inside. You'll know what you can and cannot do, ways that you can manipulate this environment to your liking. But in those early days, weeks, and months, especially those first 10 days, be better than me. Do not, as I articulate in Lessons from Prison, take a mattress that I was not qualified to get without understanding that when I took the mattress, the prison hustler, my friend David, with whom I stay in touch, was going to come to me with a list, things I needed to buy for him in the commissary. Plus it was a disciplinary infraction. So as you get adjusted, avoid the prison hustle. No, I don't need you to do my job. No, I don't need a better mattress. No, I don't need medications. Are you a doctor? Are you a physician? Even if you were, I know you are not a physician within this prison. So please do not give me or take any medication. You can't do anything great in federal prison. Build, memorialize, create a new business if you immediately get into trouble and get sent to the hole. There were dudes that got there immediately, got into trouble. They go to the hole. They come out months later looking like Casper the Ghost because you're sitting in a bunker 23 hours a day. So no prison hustle. 2, I know that I made a lot of mistakes that sent me to prison, and I know some people don't feel they should be in prison. You can question the length of prison sentences, but I know I made bad choices that sent me to federal prison. So in those early days, as we build habits are hard to change, especially in prison. If you get into a routine of laziness and TV, it's going to follow you throughout the whole term. There's this prison parlance we frequently hear. I'll begin preparing when I got 6 months to the house, 6 months to the halfway house. It ain't happening. By then, it ain't ever going to start. So I would encourage you to use your time wisely. And that starts with trying to understand some tendency you have that led you to the wrong side of prison boundaries. I began in those early days with help from Michael to understand what led me here. I was a bit of a pleaser. I went with the flow. I got a little bit lazy in my career. I became beholden to one client, my hedge fund manager, Keith, that made up a lot of our income. I didn't want it to go away. I didn't want to work harder, fire the client and overcome it. What tendencies do you have that led you to federal prison? If you can begin to work on it in those early days, dare I say that prison experience can begin to serve you, it's like, you're not serving time. The time is serving you. Someone else, how's it going? I have a 3-hour break from my family on a Sunday. It's fantastic. I love them. I'm going to go see them. And I'm using this time not to watch golf or golf. I'm knocking out videos and I'm providing content to all of you traversing the system. So that's how it's going. I'm really grateful to have you. Embrace your tendency and work on it. 3, in those early days, I want you to look for work. So you can wait to get assigned a job. Most new prisoners are going to go to the kitchen. Fine. Many of you can go, become an orderly. The problem with an orderly is, you might be sweeping floors or emptying trash, which is awesome. Some of you might get sent to cleaning the toilets and showers, which you might not love. So I encourage many of you immediately after you get to federal prison to walk around the compound and look for a job that could be of value. The library, recreation, commissary. It's pretty cool to hand out racquetballs. Well, guess what? You can be avoiding the prison hustle, working on your tendency, using your time productively. So I want you to immediately get there, look for work. Also, in those early days, I need you to create something of value. A number of people will say they go to prison and they read books, which is great, but reading is sort of a passive activity. I need you to commit to creating something. If that's the release plan that I presumed, if you have a brain you have surrendered to prison with, and you presume you will eventually give it to your case manager, probation officer, judge, family, everybody. But if you haven't, it's a great opportunity to begin creating that release plan in prison. Or maybe what you create is a lengthy letter home, expressing your goals to your friends and family. Create something, begin to memorialize this journey, because if you don't, you're always going to see it differently. Ask someone who's been to federal prison. I've been there. And on the first day was somewhat traumatic. And then you get past it. You're like, yeah, it was one day in my life. It wasn't that bad. It was fun in some ways. I can't believe I'm in prison. I'm not insane saying that it's fun, but it's an experience and it goes quickly. But I saw the first day in federal prison differently, the 5th day and the 10th day and the 1000th day, that's a hard word to say, than I did as I was experiencing it. So to the extent that you can memorialize it and create it and share it, you're more authentic. You're never going to be able to recreate it. So if you get into the habit of writing something every single day, even if it's just for a few minutes, you're going to feel better. And guess what? It's going to make those that love and support you feel better as well, because they are anxious when they drop you off. They are wondering what you're going to do. They are wondering what you're going to say when you call home. They are wondering what you are going to say when you write that letter or send that email. And you have a responsibility to lead and demonstrate to them that you are making the most of this experience. But it's not going to happen by happy talk. You've got to create, you've got to share it and build upon it, presuming you want to have the best experience possible. Also, within those first 10 days, I encourage you to study, watch, and learn. If there was a ratio, and I'm no mathematician here, but I would say 99% listening, watching, studying your environment, 1% talking, never offering unsolicited advice, both to people you form a friendship with and people that you do not know. You need to study and watch people who are successful. And I did a pretty good job of that. I would look and say, why is this guy like smiling? Why is he happy? Why is he so productive? Like, what is he doing? I did that immediately. And I was blessed to have initial bunkies who kind of fit my value system, someone with whom I was comfortable speaking with, because there are people who are going to get into what I discuss next, which is criticize, condemn, and complain all day, which is something I cannot have you do within that first 10 days in federal prison or at all, because if you start, you ain't never going to stop, because in federal prison, it loves company. And if you want to hang around that chow hall and wait for your turn to complain, it's coming. If you want to stand in line, go into the chow hall and wait for your turn to complain, it's coming. I remember in that 7th or 8th day, or within the first couple of weeks, I was walking around the track with someone serving 4 years for an insurance fraud scheme. He had previously pled guilty, and he went around telling everyone that despite his prior conviction and pleading guilty and having a sentencing guideline range of 3 to 5 years, his lawyer guaranteed him that he would get probation with the prior conviction and a guideline range of 3 to 5 years, and he blamed everybody but himself. And people bought into it. Yeah, you were the victim here. You were wronged. It wasn't your fault. And thankfully, because I was studying, observing, and adapting, I thought to myself, I do not want to associate with someone who appears to be, forgive me for saying this, it could trigger some people, insane to think they're going to get probation when the guidelines are 3 to 5 years and they have a prior conviction. Didn't want to associate with people like that blame and excuse. So I want you in those early days to think to yourself, never criticize, never complain, never condemn. And of course, I learned that, never criticize, condemn, or complain, from one of Dale Carnegie's seminal books, How to Influence Friends and Win People. If you can do that, it helps your whole adjustment, because you're going to think before you respond. Am I complaining? Am I criticizing? Am I condemning? Was someone in the prison with my family? It gives you an opportunity to really get off on the right foot. In those first 10 days, I want you to test yourself. Do something you've never done before. You're in federal prison after all. You might as well enjoy the experience. You might as well test yourself and try some things you've never done. I did early in that journey. In those first weeks, I went for I was not a runner. I was terribly out of shape. And my good friend Andrew Alchek, who unfortunately died in prison, I met him that first night. He said, you have got to test yourself. You've got to push yourself. You've got to do creative things here in prison you've probably never done before, or you might never do again. That can include people fasting, going a full day without speaking, running a damn marathon. In my case, I ran 3 miles that second day. It was brutal. I ran 5 miles the fifth day. It was brutal. I was crying. I had shin splints. I wanted to stop. I wanted to find every reason to stop. And then you begin to get those endorphins as a runner that I still feel today, 14, 15 years later at 49. So I want you to like test yourself. Do something that first 10 days you have never done before. And then when you do it, it's freaking awesome, man. Like it is really like, it's pretty cool. You're like, hey, I'm in prison. I'm doing things that are kind of fun. I'm testing myself. I'm understanding my tendencies, what led me here. I'm never complaining. I'm creating content that's going to influence my life on the other side. Hey, guess what, man? This prison term is serving me. I'm not really serving time here because the clock is ticking. I want all of you to watch this YouTube short video I put up 2 days ago where someone asked me what was the worst thing I saw in prison. It wasn't when I walked in and saw someone had defecated in the shower. Now that wasn't cool. It wasn't even when I saw semen and floss on the walls. And I can't tell you that was that exciting either, but as human beings, we overcome it, we endure it, no big deal, it's a moment in time. The worst thing I saw, and all of you need to embrace, is dudes not ready to go home, delaying or trying to get into trouble, turning down halfway house time, which you really can't do at the first step back now because it's kind of like you're turning down a program. I don't want you turning down halfway house time or being scared to death to go home, or when you go to the halfway house, they don't approve your job. And you're like, well, wait a second, like they want me to go to Kentucky Fried Chicken? I think I'd rather be back in the cushy conditions of a federal prison camp. Think about that for a moment. You don't want to go to prison. You're scared to go to prison. You do all you can to avoid prison. Then you go to prison and come home and you suddenly say, I want to go back to prison to finish my sentence. Know what that tells me? You didn't get off to the right start within that first 10 days, which is why I'm filming this video for you on a Sunday, because I want you to have a better experience, because you didn't get a life sentence. What, you get 18 months, 2 years, 3 years? I mean, some guys only get 18 months and they go home and create YouTube channels and businesses around their experience. Oh, sorry, that was me. I'm the guy that got 18 months. I don't want this to be a life sentence for you. I want you to make the most of it. Number 7, I need you to immediately begin exercising in dosages that you can maintain, okay? Most dudes, they go in, they go from like not exercising for a while, then just like that, it's like they're Olympic athletes. Many get hurt, by the way, which is why you should be doing some exercise before you go in. But when you live 50 or 60 yards from the track, you're going to begin to work out. The problem is a lot of guys, they'll start walking 7, 8, 9 hours a day. They don't lift any weights. They become a thinner version of their fatter self, if I'm allowed to say it. But then they release from prison, and guess what happens? You can't walk around the track for 9 hours a day or 8 hours a day. And most people, I hate to say it, including some people in our community who call and say the biggest regret I have from prison is putting all of the weight back on. Why? I didn't develop new habits. I didn't improve my diet. But also, I can no longer exercise 8 hours a day in prison. So I want you to begin eating as healthily as you can in federal prison. There are plenty of good things you can buy in the commissary. Or you can have ice cream for breakfast, which was a book I contemplated writing with Michael in prison. I proposed the idea to him and he said, please leave the quiet room so I could write. I'm not reading a book called Ice Cream for Breakfast. The point is there's no refrigerator in the dorm. So a lot of guys would shop at 6 or 7 in the commissary. They'd buy 6 things of ice cream. They would eat it because it would melt. So you want to improve your diet, because I know many of you have, like me, probably put on a few lbs as you go through the inevitability, the stress of this. So I want in those first 10 days to get in a good eating pattern, but also tell yourself you're going to exercise in dosages you can maintain when you come home from prison. If it's 2 hours a day, an hour a day, sustain. And I would argue you'll probably do more in prison than you will when you come home, but the ratio cannot be so warped that you come home, put all that weight back on and get depressed. A few more things here. I want you to get into the idea of waking as early as you possibly can. I've always been an early riser. When I was a stockbroker at Bear Stearns, I'd be at my desk at 5:30 in the morning, which sucked, but I did it. If you can get into the idea of waking really early, there's value in that, including you get a little bit of respite and peace and quiet while the dorm is sleeping. It's nice. Get up at 4:30. You can use the restroom in peace, back to a healthier diet. I was eating a lot of fiber, fruits, and vegetables, which enabled me to use the restroom in privacy by waking early rather than at 8 o'clock in the morning. There's 20 dudes in line with a roll of toilet paper waiting to go. So waking early, you get a chance to think while the dorm is sleeping. You can plan out your day. You get going earlier. It was just a wonderful time. And I found most guys that were really productive and working hard and never complaining, criticizing, or condemning tended to wake early and really had goals they had planned to accomplish that day. So wake early. I think it's a very good idea. Plus, the earlier you wake, the better you exercise, the better you eat, the easier it will be to go to sleep, because it can be an adjustment in those early days, learning to sleep with the lights on and snoring and noise and loud and lockers closing and things like that. So the earlier the wake, the better you eat, the more you exercise, the more you're going to be able to sleep through a lot of noise, including some bright lights. Couple more here. I want you in those early days to let friendships happen organically. Learn the power of saying no. No, I don't want to go for a walk around the track. No, I don't want you to do my job. No, no, no. Do not feel forced to spend time with anyone. Prison's a microcosm of society, and many new prisoners feel compelled or obligated to associate with people, and that can disrupt your routine. Let friendships happen organically, as they did with Michael Santos and me, or Andrew Alchek and me, and others. It will naturally happen. In the interim, you've got to learn to spend time alone and find places where you can spend time alone. And believe it or not, in prison, there's plenty of opportunities to do that. You can walk the track alone. You can go to the library alone, stand by the handball court, or read and work and write and create alone. I encourage you to let friendships happen organically, because if you begin to associate with people who complain, or the people who blame the judge and everybody else but themselves, it's going to infect you. Their personality is going to infect you, and it's going to ruin you. So this can be a road. As you go to federal prison, it could be a road to safety and a new future, a better path, or it can be a continued road to ruin with more struggle through prison and on the other side. And I need you to be thinking about that now. Let friendships happen organically. And last but not least, on this Sunday, I want all of you to begin ascending that the U-shaped curve, the moment you get to federal prison. Day 1, day 2, day 10, ascending the U-shaped curve. As you recall, when you surrender to federal prison, you're anxious. Are you going to make it? What's it like? You're getting adjusted to this environment, but in time you're going to be fine, and you're going to work your way down to the bottom of this metaphorical U. That's the easiest part of your prison experience. That's the halfway part of your journey. So if you have a 3-year sentence, that's halfway through. It's the easiest part. But then you're going to begin to ascend the U, and guess what happens? You're nervous, you're anxious. Bills are coming, restitution is coming, mortgage is coming, getting your job approved in the halfway house is coming, supervised release is coming, and many prisoners freak out as they ascend the U, and it's a reminder they didn't use their time in federal prison productively. So as we discuss 10 actions within 10 days of your surrender to federal prison, or a quick federal prison toolkit, I want you ascending the U the moment you get there. And if you can do that, the experience is going to be better. You're going to avoid problems. That's all I got on a Sunday. If any of you want lessons from prison, my book, it's still free. You just need to read it. I went to federal prison unprepared. I made some bad decisions that it could have led to trouble. I was fortunate to have support, some friends that helped guide me. I got a lot of lucky breaks. You might not get those breaks. For that reason, you need to be prepared to surrender to federal prison. Master these 10 things to do, 10 action items within 10 days. Your family will be proud of you. They'll admire you. They'll continue to support you. Prove worthy of that love and support, and the experience will be a breeze, I promise you. Thank you for joining White Collar Advice on a Sunday. We are so grateful to have you, and I'm so grateful to have this forum to help all of you. Enjoy your Sunday. Goodbye.